In this video, we'll be taking a look at 2 college football games happening on October 6, 2023, and providing you with free team picks and total picks for each one of those games. So 2 picks for each game, 4 picks in total. Welcome back to Cash Out Sports. Let's dive right into it. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe and to click the bell icon to get notified as soon as these videos get released so that you have more time to plan out your bets as we provide these videos on a daily basis. I can guarantee that you'll have all the important information that you'll need on these 2 college football games after fully watching this video. One more thing before we start, if you would like to gain access to our best exclusive sports picks to take your journey to the next level, then check out our Patreon in the link down below where we offer our best single picks, parlay picks, and much more. Now let's get started. Kansas State versus Oklahoma State. It's a battle of Big 12 teams on the gridiron as a pair of teams collide in the Sooner State. The Kansas State Wildcats are on the road as they make the trip to face the Oklahoma State Cowboys Friday night. Kansas State rolls in off a bye week last week. The Wildcats defeated UCF 44-31 at home in their previous game September 23rd, covering the line as a 6-point favorite in the process. Oklahoma State was off last week as well. They were beaten 34-27 on the road by Iowa State on the road back on September 23rd, failing to cover as a 3.5-point underdog. In the all-time series between the teams, the Cowboys own a 42-27 advantage, but it was the Wildcats steamrolling their way to a 48-0 home triumph in the most recent matchup on October 29, 2022. The Wildcats still have championship aspirations even with their loss to Missouri. Oklahoma State is not exactly in the same spot with 2 losses, one of which was to conference opponent Iowa State. Oklahoma State finished last season 7-6, going 2-6 to finish the year after a 5-0 start. They are headed for a disappointing 2 years in a row if they don't right the ship after losses to Iowa State and South Alabama. Kansas State finished last season 10-4 with a win in the Big 12 championship game but a loss to Alabama in the Sugar Bowl. The Wildcats are the 3rd favorite to win the Big 12 at plus 800, and they could do just that, but they have a long road ahead, and it starts with Oklahoma State. Kansas State's offense averages 38 points per game and 482 yards per game. They are a high-powered unit that is led by quarterback Will Howard. Howard has a 65% completion percentage with 1,072 yards, 13 total touchdowns, and 4 interceptions this year. He also has some weapons like DJ Giddens at running back, who has 66 carries for 423 yards with 4 touchdowns. Their defense seems to be right on pace with last year as well, allowing on average only 14 points and 337.5 yards per game. Oklahoma State unfortunately averages and allows only 20 points per game. Their offense has not found its rhythm, but their defense is not that bad. The Wildcats just simply have the advantage in this game. The Wildcats are 7-2 against the spread and straight up in their last 9 games. They are also 9-3 against the spread in their last 12 against Oklahoma State. The Cowboys are 1-6 against the spread in their last 7 games and 2-5 straight up in their last 7. Oklahoma State looked bad against South Alabama and Iowa State, and it's 102nd in total offense, 106th in rushing offense, and 103rd in scoring offense. The Kansas State Wildcats are a balanced team that cannot only move the ball, but it's also 8th in run defense. There's a decent gap between these 2 clubs. It's tough to have a ton of faith in Oklahoma State, even at home on a blackout night in Stillwater. The Cowboys are coming in off a loss to an Iowa State team that fell to a Mid-American Conference team in Ohio a couple of weeks ago. Oklahoma State was also drubbed 33-7 at home by South Alabama in their previous contest before the Iowa State game. Kansas State is coming off their biggest margin of victory in this series last season, and that was an Oklahoma State team that still had Spencer Sanders running the offense. The Wildcats have a lot of returning experience and the advantage at the quarterback spot with Howard. The Cowboys own a 42-27 series advantage, but it was Kansas State taking last year's meeting in a rout, 48-0. The last 6 meetings have been split down the middle. The Wildcats are 3-1 against the spread this season, while Oklahoma State is 1-3 against the spread. Kansas State offers a wealth of problems for the Cowboys. They know now that the only way that the Cowboys will be able to effectively move the ball is through the air, so expect tons of pressure on Bowman all day. The Kansas State offense is explosive, and Oklahoma State has not been up against a team this quick yet. They may be winded by halftime, and then the Wildcats cruise. Kansas State is a big favorite in this game, but it is not too big of a number that I am uncomfortable playing it. Give the advantage to Kansas State, even on the road, as they improved to 4-1 on the season. I'm not thrilled to lay double-digit chalk with a road team in a conference game, but Oklahoma State looks nothing like teams in the past. So the Kansas State Wildcats to win and cover the spread as favorites is our full game side pick. Kansas State comes into this game having seen the over-hit in 3 of their opening 4 contests. In their lone road game this season, the Wildcats combined with Missouri for 57 points to go over the number of 48 points. Oklahoma State has stayed under the number in 3 of their 4 games this season. The Cowboys stayed under the mark in both of their home games this season. The Cowboys combined with Central Arkansas to score 40 points, falling well short of the 59.5-point number set for that contest. Oklahoma State followed that with 40 points in their loss to South Alabama, ending up short of the 49.5-point number in that one. It's safe to say that the Cowboys haven't faced an offense like the Wildcats yet this season. Both teams kicked off their Big 12 schedules with big numbers. The Wildcats went over a total of 52 with UCF, combing for 75 points. The Cowboys saw a total of 61 points scored in their matchup versus Iowa State, soaring past the 36.5 total on that game. The over is 6-4 in the last 10 meetings, and last season the Wildcats put up 48 on their own. Unfortunately, the Cowboys couldn't contribute anything, but this time they should be able to get on the board and help out. The over is 3-1 in the last 4 meetings between these two in Stillwater. Kansas State likely puts up at least 35 points, helping this game wind up over the total. Over the projected total is our full game total pick. Nebraska versus Illinois. This Friday night Big Ten matchup features the Nebraska Cornhuskers traveling to take on the Illinois Fighting Illini at home. Nebraska dropped their game last week at home against number 2 Michigan with their 45-7 loss. Similarly, the Fighting Illini lost their game 44-19 on the road against Purdue. Nebraska has a 2-3 record overall and a 0-2 record in the Big Ten so far. They picked up a couple wins against Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech, but have lost some key games against number 22 Colorado and number 2 Michigan. In their most recent 45-7 loss against Michigan, the offense performed relatively well despite the lack of scoring, with their backup quarterback Heinrich Haarberg throwing for 200 yards and an interception in the absence of Jeff Sims. Running back Joshua Fleeks ripped off a 74-yard touchdown on his only carry, while Billy Kemp IV led the receivers with 4 receptions for 61 yards. Not many people expected them to win this game obviously, but the team showed signs of encouragement even without their starting quarterback and a dozen of injuries on the defensive end. The Cornhuskers will likely still be without these players for their upcoming game against Illinois, so Nebraska will have to find a way to piece this one together on the road, get back to even on the season, and get their first conference win of the season. The Cornhuskers enter their upcoming game on the road against Illinois as just 3.5-point underdogs. Their first conference win is in grasp, but they will have a variety of problems they need to address in order to get this win. It starts with the defense, where they will be missing a key piece in edge rusher Cameron Lenhart, along a handful of linebackers and defense backs. The defense will have to find a way to create pressure on the edges without Lenhart to take some pressure off of their thinned-out corners and linebackers. On the offensive end, they are still without starting quarterback Jeff Sims and operating with backup Heinrich Haarberg under helm. This hasn't seemed too problematic as Haarberg has filled the role well in his past 3 starts, but they need to have a consistent run game to help take some pressure off the redshirt sophomore. Anthony Grant and Emmett Johnson will have to step up in the backfield and supply consistent yards per carry. If the Cornhuskers can do this, they will have a good chance of winning this game on the road. Illinois has a 2-3 record overall and a 0-2 record in the Big Ten so far. Their only wins have come against Toledo and Florida Atlantic, while they dropped their games against number 7 Penn State, Kansas, and Purdue. In their most recent 44-19 loss against Purdue, the offense performed pretty well in terms of yardage despite the differential on the scoreboard. Their quarterback Luke Altmaier threw for just over 200 yards with a touchdown, while Isaiah Williams led the receivers hauling in 6 receptions for 113 yards. The run game also performed better than expected given they were without their starting back Reggie Love III, who is questionable for this Friday with the ankle injury. This was obviously yet another tough loss for the Fighting Illini as the defense had no answers for Purdue, who does not have a very good offense in comparison to who they will play rest of season. The Fighting Illini enter their upcoming game at home against Nebraska as 3.5-point favorites despite their dismantling last week. In order for them to cover their spread and get their first conference win in front of their home crowd, a variety of things need to happen on offense and defense for that matter. Their lead back Reggie Love III is still questionable with an ankle injury, so their backfield will have to step up in his absence as Illinois is a notoriously run-heavy team. Luke Altimer and Isaiah Williams have helped ease them away from this stigma, but they still need a consistent run game to properly operate the offense and compete against top teams. The defense also has to step up, even with a couple of injuries in the secondary. They can't blame it on the injuries as they have been dismantled both through the air and on the ground. Getting the offense going and playing with a lead will help this situation, but the defense needs to come out strong, limit downfield passing, and bend don't break in the red zone. We have two very mediocre teams who are similar in their playing style, and there is not a lot that separates them. Both teams are 2-3, and oddsmakers are expecting a slow, grinding, low-scoring slugfest in this one, as there is a point total in the low 40s. The Illini have played a tough schedule so far. They took a lopsided loss to Purdue last week, and they have losses to Penn State and on the road at Kansas. They edged out both Florida Atlantic and Toledo at home, but the Fighting Illini have thus far been overmatched by Power 5 foes. For the Cornhuskers, the story is similar. They were dismantled by Michigan and a healthy Colorado team, played an ugly game with Minnesota, but have handled their business against lesser opponents like Northern Illinois and Louisiana Tech. Playing at home is a helpful edge for Illinois, but on the field, I think the Huskers are a bit better. Matt Rule's trench-oriented, defensively focused scheme is probably perfect for Nebraska, and they are starting to find some identity on offense. After a quarterback change in the Colorado game, the offense seems to work a little better with dual-threat quarterback Heinrich Haarberg at the helm. I think Nebraska might be a sneaky play here. This game is tough because you have a Nebraska team that has trouble scoring against an Illinois team that's defense is not the same defense from last year as it got ravaged by the NFL draft, losing 3 of their top guys in the top 75. I think between these two, the lesser of two evils is taking the points here with Nebraska as Illinois defense isn't that much better, and the Cornhuskers defense has been pretty good and the only reason it's been able to stay in the games that it has up to this point. This one's going to be bowling shoe ugly, but I'll be happy to have the free field goal and the hook in my back pocket. If the books are right and this game stays super low scoring, then I like the chances of this game being separated by just a field goal. I will take the Huskers, who I think might be a little bit better anyway, catching better than a field goal on the road. So the Nebraska Cornhuskers to cover the spread as underdogs is our full game side pick. The Huskers are limited without Sims' experience and didn't run the football well enough last week against Michigan to expect a run-heavy approach to work instead of a passing game. The Illini aren't the Wolverines, but they're prepared for Haarberg now that there are 2 games of tape out on him. He may be a better passer than Sims, but I don't see him exposing the Illini a week after contributing 0 points against Michigan. The Illini offense has come in waves, but it's been practically non-existent against decent competition. Altmaier has thrown more interceptions than touchdowns, and the Illinois ground game is 110th nationally. It could be without its leading rusher on Friday as well. The Huskers have registered 14 sacks and have stuffed the run this season, so don't be surprised if they are in the backfield often. Under the projected total is our full game total pick. That's all for now, so if you have any other games you would like reviewed, then leave a comment down below with the game you would like analyzed. Subscribe to our channel, leave a like on this video, and we'll get to it as soon as we possibly can. We would also love to hear your opinion on the picks presented to you in this video, whether you agree or disagree with them, so leave a comment down below and do let us know.